Good evening, everyone. So let us collect ourselves to this moment, tune to the divine that guides everything, that sustains everything, that guides our thinking and actions. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhetamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. We have an important discussion going on. So before we continue on our discussion regarding moving from Jiva Srishti to Ishvara Srishti, growing out of our personal drama and integrating ourselves with the divine rhythms of life and the divine intelligence that is within us and all around us, for which I suggested the 5-step process of invocation, adoration, dedication, contemplation, and realization, the 5 stages of the progress in that. Right? So we discussed a lot of points. So before we continue the discussion, I have a couple of questions here, and I will see how I can integrate the answer to this question within the class or answer it exclusively. Sorry in advance for the long question. Yes, you are forgiven. Could not the rituals, puja, japa, mantra, karma kanda, etc. Right, let's put it all together in term karma kanda. Okay. So could not the rituals, etc., the Janma Nakshatra, etc., you refer, also be considered Jiva Srishti, since they were all created on a specific planet Earth within a specific society, culture, the Vedic one. There are other societies and cultures on this planet with their own practices in line with nature. Plus, across the galaxy and the universe, there are countless billions and trillions planets, some of which may have alien societies with their own rituals, etc. All of these may pay homage to Ishvara Srishti in their own way, but they are still context dependent and society and culture dependent, and maybe even planet dependent. That is what planet the society is on. Very good. So I appreciate the inclusive spirit of this question. And there is another question here. How to verify that we are in the right company, right path, and right learning? Both are very important questions, and both are connected to the same idea actually. So I will see how I can address that. About the first question, can't these Vedic practices also be considered as Jiva Srishti? Now, the fundamental axiom which defines our Shraddha when we are under the Vedic tradition. Now, this can be approached only with Shraddha. It cannot be answered intellectually in a sufficient manner. Okay, I should be honest about that. Logically or scientifically, this cannot be established. Okay, this is approached only with Shraddha. If you have Shraddha, great. If you don't have Shraddha, great. Now, the fundamental basis of Shraddha is apaurusheyam vakyam vedam. That is the whole point. Okay? Astika, when you are an Astika who looks up to Veda as divine revelation, the knowledge that is valid knowledge regarding spiritual things, the knowledge which is not available for my perception, for my logical analysis and scientific investigation, and the knowledge which cannot be contradicted with my perception and my scientific investigation and my logical analysis. It can neither be arrived at nor can be contradicted, but the knowledge promises something useful to me. Abhadita anadhigata phalatva jnanam. Okay, so this is the fundamental idea about the source of all this knowledge, which is the Veda, Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharva. It is categorized in the 4 categories as there are not 4 Vedas. Vedas are infinite, unlimited. But there are 4 classes of Vedas: Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda. The classification was done for easy consumption and beneficial for Kali Yuga. Because in Kali Yuga the understanding capacity is very less, Vyasa made it easy and set it up all for us. Even then it is difficult, but at least, without this, imagine. Okay. So now this cannot be subject to honest intellectual rational analysis, because this truth cannot be established or dismissed with reason. So you either take it or leave it. This is taken only on Shraddha. What can help in our what can help us in developing Shraddha is when we look at how the tradition is and how the gurus are, how our the great masters of our tradition were, and how they lived and what they contributed, and about the various stories of both logic and magic, and the legends of the great yogis and everything that we listen to. And the consistency, when you study, the Shastra, the unimaginable phenomenal consistency across the entire body of knowledge. And each one is revealed by one Rishi. Okay. If you take a Yajurveda, there are a few hundred shakas, let us say. Every shaka in the Veda is revealed by a Rishi. Different Rishis. Each one had his own ashram, different forests, different areas, his own lineage groups. But when it is all brought together, you see there is a huge consensus among them. And there is a huge synchronicity and interrelatedness. So, apaurusheyam vakyam vedam, when we say, what they try to say is that the Veda, the knowledge revealed in the Veda, in the form of sounds, as it is, verbatim, is the blueprint for this universe. When Brahmaji wants to create this universe, every creation cycle, there is one Brahmaji. Okay. So, the Brahmaji creates this universe using the knowledge of the Veda based on the patterns from the previous cycle of creation. Right? It is not some whim and fancy of one created guy who got bored. Yeah. So it's not like that. It is because of the collective karma that invokes the Brahma that there is a need for this experience of this world. So that invokes the Brahma, and that Brahma, that's the creation based on the blueprint. So there is a lot of through the process of tapasya, by concentrating his psychic energies. So there is a way of explaining it, and we cannot understand this with the framework of the knowledge, 3-dimensional knowledge that we have based on the terrestrial physics. But one analogy, there are a lot of analogies which can help us to appreciate this. Right? So regarding the Shraddha, this is the basic. Okay. So Veda is not Jiva Srishti. Veda is not even Ishvara Srishti. Veda is Ishvara Swarupam, basically. It's called as the breath of the Ishvara. The breath of the Lord is Veda. Veda is, let us say, I will put it like this. I would try to explain it as the knowledge structures the possibilities, the possibilities and the rhythms and the structures of knowledge in consciousness. It sounds very abstract. I will give a very concrete example. Let us say a pot. Okay, you have a clay, and the potter makes the clay into a pot. Very simple. Now, when you look at the pot, where is the pot? Whatever you touch in the pot is clay. Right? But there is a huge difference, a functional difference between a lump of clay and the shape of pot. So the pot cannot be made without the knowledge of pot already in the mind, or the knowledge of the pot. The shape of the pot is a possibility waiting to manifest. There is a huge discussion about it in the various darshanas, Satkaryavada and all that. So the intelligent cause is the potter. The intelligence drives the process of converting the lump of clay into the shape of pot. The lump becomes the pot. So what is the pot here? The pot is nothing but pure knowledge. It's a pattern of orientation of clay. It is only a pattern. Now you extend to every aspect of life. It comes close to quantum physics. Quantum physics kind of comes close to this, I will put it that way. Whatever you perceive, whatever you experience in life, there are no things here. When you look around you, in front of you, your body, the floor that you are in, the room that you are in, the computer, everything around you, the clothes that you're wearing, it is all experienced as things, but you probe into it. Everything is only an idea. Did you ever think about it? Everything is an idea. So this entire universe is a soup of ideas. It is one idea interacting with another idea. So this whole universe is nothing but knowledge. Now this knowledge is based on the laws of nature, and the laws of nature are not created by anyone. They are not created. These are just possibilities in life. These are possibilities in consciousness. Right? The shape of a square, the shape of a circle is a possibility in space, and a possibility of orientation of a shape in space. Now it's pure knowledge. It's nothing else. Right? So if you see this entire universe, it is nothing but various patterns and various ideas, and the whole universe is nothing but knowledge. Now Veda is that knowledge in the form of sound, in the form of sound and rhythms and words, directly arising from the source. Now this Apaurushayam means not made by a person. So Veda is not made by any person. Veda is like how a shape of circle is, how the shape of a pot is, just waiting to be discovered, waiting to be manifest. Somebody has to capture the idea of the pot and get the idea of shaping the clay into a pot. Right? Similarly, the knowledge in the form of Veda is already existing in consciousness, in nature, just waiting to manifest. So there are people who are of probably some special kind of a subtle body that empowers them to have the sensitivity to capture this and manifest it to us through the directly in the form of sounds and give it to us as Veda. So they are called mantra drashtaha, those who have seen the mantras. They are the rishis. This is the most fundamental thing. I have discussed this already while discussing Shraddha, but I am trying to get back to it. I am trying to tell it in a different way so that you'll be able to appreciate it. So the rishi captures the Veda in his mind and reveals to us. The Veda reveals to us. The Veda reveals itself to us and become manifest as a structure of sounds that can be learned and repeated and related to and understood and analyzed and understood by everyone for the benefit of everyone. It reveals itself through that special person called a rishi. A rishi reveals the Veda. So that is why in all the mantras in the Veda, they will hear rishi, devata, chandas. No? Agora rishi, anushtup chandaha. Then you have Shankara Shanamurti like that in Rudram we say, right? So Gayatri, you have Vishwamitra, Savita, Vishwamitra Rishi, Savita Devata, Gayatri Chandaha, we have, right? So if you see different Vedas, different shakas, different mantras, you have a Rishi who reveals the mantra. Then, so the whole Veda is eternal. The Veda is eternal like the universe. A Rishi captures and gives it to us. Now, through the research and the divine insight of one of the great masters who lived in our times, Sri Kanchi Mahaswami, he was called, Chandrasekharendra Saraswati, Mahaperiva we say here. Through some research and some interactions and his own divine insight and everything, he has pointed out that the Veda existed in every continent and the pronunciation and the intonation changes according to the continent. So this is a very good point that this questioner has arised here. There are other societies and cultures on this planet own practices. Just like how the laws of physics are common for all cultures and all planets. Even if you go to Mars, see, that is why we are able to launch a space probe and manage the space probe and land the rover on Mars and do some research there and even maintain a station there where the physics behaves very differently, right? See, this environment in space, inside a space station is completely different. But the laws of physics are common to the space station and to my little room here on planet Earth. Correct? The laws are the same. The conditions are different. So the Veda, the spiritual knowledge is the same. The way the individuals relate to the spiritual knowledge is different. And the availability, the access to the spiritual knowledge is what we are talking about. Right? I will come to that. The cultural aspect that restricts your personal access to spiritual knowledge. I will come to that. It's a little controversial, but I will try to keep it as less controversial as possible. So the laws of physics are the same on Earth, in space station, in India, in America, in Europe, everywhere. So if you understand the laws of the physics, if you are a proper physicist, no matter which environment you are put in, you will know how to tap into the laws of physics and make that environment friendly to yourself. And help yourself to adapt to the environment and exploit the possibilities there to manifest certain results. Right? In the same way, Veda was there in every culture, in every continent, in every part of the world. I don't know about other planets because there is no pramana about other planets and the Veda there. I am not sure if we can consider the Devas and the other Ganas, what we say as Bhuta Ganas and Devas and Karma Devas and the Surya Mandala all that we say, Chandra Mandala, Surya Mandala, is not just physical. When we say Surya Loka, Chandra Loka, Nakshatra Loka, when we say Loka, it means a plane of consciousness where there are beings. So when we say Deva Loka, Pitru Loka, Brahma Loka, etc., I'm not sure if they're talking about other planets where there are aliens, or is it a different vibratory state and there are different living beings. But the general understanding in the tradition by the masters and through the help of the yogis, great masters with yogic perception, what we understand is these are different vibratory levels and different dimensions of consciousness, which can be accessed from within our mind here itself. If we are able to elevate our mind and our attention to a certain vibratory level, we can access those lokas sitting here. So that means it has to be a plane of consciousness. It cannot be another planet, then we have to physically go there. But we also have the story about sage Vishwamitra sending Trishanku to Swargaloka with his physical body, and then he was thrown down, then he was suspended in the mid-air, and then he created a Trishanku Swargam for him. So what they are symbolically trying to say in that exactly, we don't know. We need subtle divine perception to understand it as it is. But it tries to convey a point, right? So all these lokas are dimensions. But for the purpose of our discussion, we may extrapolate from here. So if the laws of the physics are the same on Earth, space station, in Mars and Moon and Venus, and in any other planet or star system that you go, or galaxy that you go, the Veda has to be the same. The spiritual laws must also be the same, because everything comes from the same spirit. All the laws of the nature are sustained by the Supreme Being in that Supreme Intelligence. So even Brahmaji himself creates the world based on the Veda as blueprint. So that means spiritual knowledge is universal, means literally universal. It is the same everywhere. Right? Now, with their own rituals and cultures, etc., correct. But the point is, what is currently practiced? How much of that is Ishvara Srishti, how much of that is Jiva Srishti is for the individual to analyze and find out. Maybe they can take the help of somebody who knows better, or somebody who has a better subtle perception. They can take the help of a master and help the master to help them decide how much of that is okay, how much of that is not okay. Now, let us analyze this. This is where this is the context where the second question comes relevant. How to verify that we are in the right company, the right path, and right learning. This is extremely relevant question in this context. Now the spiritual path, let's call about the right path. When you say the right path, how do you understand the right path? A right path is something that gives you direct access to the spiritual principles that govern the universe, that helps you to understand and imbibe and integrate the spiritual laws of life, that awakens you to the spiritual knowledge, into the spiritual realm, that awakens you into higher consciousness, that awakens you to the presence of divine that governs everything terrestrial, right? So that is the right path. So you have to see whether it does that or not. Is it taking you more into the ego trip, or is it making your ego more and more subservient to the spiritual rhythms and laws of life? That would be the question that answers that. Now, when we are talking about the right path, the tradition or the cultural aspect is secondary. The primary factor is my approach. I could be in the Vedic tradition. I could be using the tools from the Veda, from the Agamas. Technically looking, I am on the right path, but I could be approaching it in the wrong way. So then I am not in the right path. Like if you remember a few classes back, we discussed what is called spiritual materialism. spiritual materialism is basically approaching the body of spiritual knowledge with my materialistic intentions and purposes and using it for self-gratification rather than allowing the spiritual knowledge to use me, the individual, to be a part of a yajna, right? Instead of making me in tune with this cosmic yajna called life, I try to make the universe bend to my whims and fancies. So that would be a wrong path. Even though you might be in the right body of spiritual knowledge. The spiritual body of knowledge could be right, but my path is wrong. So one first factor is, whatever I am doing, what is my motivation and intention? And what is the result? The result is strengthening of my ego, my likes and dislikes, and my karma and my painful afflictions of avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, called kleshas, right? And making me more and more bound in the cycle of karma and klesha, and the struggle, the patterns of struggle. In a normal common parlance, we can say, making me more and more stuck with my patterns of personal struggle. I am on that direction, or I am on the direction of making myself more and more free from my personal struggle and my personal drama, and my approach is helping me to integrate myself with the universal rhythm of life. That could decide if I am in the right path, the personal factor. Right company, again the same thing. Any company that helps me to be on the right path is the right company. Any company that reinforces my vices, that push me into the wrong path, is the wrong company. That company could be in any form. That company could be in the form of a friend, it could be in the form of a mother or a father, it could be in the form of a partner, it could be in the form of your children, it could be in the form of friends, so-called friends. It could be even in the form of a guru. The form doesn't matter. What it does to you, that matters. So that is why the third point here, the right learning, becomes relevant. The right learning is any learning that is in tune with the Shastra according to a proper tradition of interpretation. Why I keep insisting on Vaidika Sampradaya, even though I just mentioned a few minutes back, I mentioned the spiritual knowledge was available in all the continents. But currently, whatever was the original spirituality that was there is not there. It is all taken over by the Abrahamic religion, which are more like a club and not really spirituality. Some little bit of spirituality from the native traditions are sticking on to the Abrahamic religions everywhere. A little bit. If you go to South America, it's called cultural digestion. So if you see the Christian festivals in South America, they integrate a certain old local traditions into their Christian folklore, into their stories, into their legends, into their cultural practices, into their festivals, etc. If you go to North America, it is the same. If you go to Eastern Europe and Russia, in Siberia, there is a kind of an integration of the local shamanic traditions into the Christian practices. There are also similar things in Islam, but I don't know exactly what. But I heard that certain practices around the Kaaba are actually the old practices that were there even before establishment of Islam. I don't want to go there because I want to be alive for my next class. So I'm leaving Islam alone because they are not allowing themselves to be part of any discussion. So let us leave that out. So I will deal only with this. Wherever a debate and discussion is possible, I will deal with those things. So, as an example, if you take the Christian tradition, a lot of local original traditions that was there for thousands of years that developed from that land is there. To a certain extent, certain Vedic elements are still the original Vedic elements of the European and that continent, Afro-European, Eurasian zone, that area, that Dvipa, no, that continent. Some of them are still intact in the Torah, the Jewish Torah, because a lot of elements are very similar. The cultural elements of how to preserve the oral tradition, the reading the Torah, etc., and the way of chanting it. So there are people who are dedicated, families who are dedicated to that. A lot of elements are very common, very comparable, right? And also there was an interaction between some Hebrew scholars, religious scholars who used to read the Torah, and our Kanchi Shankaracharya ji. So he said, he told them that Veda, this is the anecdote from where I have this information. This anecdote is there available in YouTube. Somebody is explaining, whoever was the first person witness to this interaction, he has talked about this. It is there. It is available in the internet. You can read it. Kanchi Mahaswami meeting Hebrew scholars, comparing Torah, Rig Veda. If you just Google that, you will see that it's already there. So he mentions that. So he asks somebody to chant the Rig Veda, and he says somewhere in the Rig Veda there are, in yoga, in Veda, you also have portions that also tell you the rules about pronunciation and all that. So it seems there is a portion where there is the key to pronunciation, the difference in the intonation of the Veda, the key to difference in the intonation according to the continent where it is revealed is available with the Vedic tradition here. So this Acharya ji knew that. And applying the same pronunciation decoding key, he chanted the same Rig Veda verse according to that key, which makes it the revelation of that continent where the Torah was revealed. Right? So when Shankaracharya started chanting that according to it, the Jewish scholars, they also joined him in the chanting, and both were chanting simultaneously. And then he said, see, why? Then they had a doubt. So we could have been the first and you could have come later. And he said, but we have the key, you don't have the key. The key for, altered pronunciation. So he said, it is not that we came first or you came first. It is the same thing everywhere. It is where, because Veda is eternal, the concept of time does not apply to it. But why I keep insisting on the Vedic tradition is because it is only here in India, in the Vedic tradition, that the original knowledge, at least to the extent that is useful for us, in a reasonably complete form, though we have lost a lot of shakhas, we have many portions which still have the complete knowledge. So even when one portion from one rishi, if you have the complete portion, you have the Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka, Upanishad, the entire body of knowledge is available. So the entire body of spiritual knowledge in all its aspects, when I say the entire body of spiritual knowledge, I am talking about the various aspects of it. Karma, Upasana, Jnana. These three aspects of it, along with the rules and all that, and along with the interpretative tradition called the Mimamsa. Mimamsa means well analyzed, systematic interpretation of the revelation and along with the methodology of application. It's called Mimamsa. So we have two Mimamsas. One Mimamsa for the ritualistic portion and another Mimamsa for the knowledge portion. Purva Mimamsa, Uttara Mimamsa. Okay. Uttara Mimamsa is called Vedanta in common knowledge. So only here the spiritual knowledge in all its dimensions is still intact in its original form, still preserved by because of the innumerable sacrifices of generations and generations of Hindus who fought tooth and nail to sustain this tradition, to save the temples, to save the Vedic Padashalas and everything. They fought tooth and nail against all the invaders, the foreign invasions, and kept this alive. Thousands and thousands of lives were lost to preserve this, and it is kept alive so that we will have access to this knowledge and we can pass it on to our next generation. So that humanity will have this knowledge forever. Since the knowledge is the same everywhere, the original spiritual knowledge is the same everywhere, fortunately or unfortunately, both fortunately because it is at least available in one place, unfortunately because it is not available elsewhere. Why it is not available, everybody knows. I don't want to go into that. Why the Library of Alexandria was burnt, why the Nalanda University was burnt, all that we know, so we don't want to go there. Similarly, the Mayan literature in South America, in the Mayan civilization's body of literature was burnt. You know by who, for what reason, right? So I don't want to go into that. Everybody knows that. You can Google all that with all the inquisitions and whatnot. But somehow, with all the sacrifices of our ancestors, this Vedic knowledge, this school of spiritual knowledge in the Vedic tradition, which is alive in India now, here it is preserved in the original form. The original form of spiritual knowledge as it is revealed, as it was revealed, and it is kept intact in its original form without corruption by generations and generations of, and by families dedicated only to preserving that knowledge. No, they have no other job. Their only job, if you go to a Vedic family, of a Vedic priest family, their only job, generation after generation, is only to preserve this body of knowledge as it is, without imposing their personal stuff. They may do all other personal things elsewhere, but when it comes to Veda, they will just follow the tradition. It may look very rigid because it is because of this rigidity that it is protected. Right? Gold may be soft and malleable, but you have to preserve the gold inside an iron box. So similarly, the rigid lifestyle preserves this infinitely flexible spiritual knowledge within it. Okay? So this gem of spiritual knowledge, as it is in the original form, is preserved only in the Vedic tradition. It has been lost elsewhere. If you find the original thing that has been preserved elsewhere in any family or in any culture, please let me know. We will go and see how it fares. With the help of our acharyas, we can find out how much of that is authentic. But from my knowledge, it is not available. Some elements here and there are surviving within the Abrahamic religions. For example, in the legend of the Santa Claus, in the legend of the Christmas, all these original festivals of winter solstice and everything, Uttarayana, Dakshayana, all those are within the story of Adam and Eve, some stories, some original stories surviving. If you watch the movie, The Mists of Avalon, it says how the original cultural practice of the worship of goddess metamorphosed into a feminine worship within Christianity, in the form of Mother Mary. That's what the movie basically tries to say in a very nice way without offending anybody's sentiment. Right? So, the Mists of Avalon. So, there is a lot of resurgence in the Wiccan traditions, in the Druidic traditions, in the Celtic traditions. There is a lot of resurgence now in Europe going on, in the West. But they have nowhere to look. They are trying to use those words and everything. But I would say those were post-Vedic and pre-Abrahamic. They lost the original knowledge, but some elements of that were surviving, and within the culture and some practices were still there. And whatever was there was completely destroyed with all the onslaught of monotheism. And They're trying to revive it, but they want to revive it to in order to understand the original principle and the spirit of the practices. They're basically coming here. They're coming and looking into yoga. They're coming and looking into our tantras. They're coming and looking into our Vedic practices and rituals and trying to see what elements they can take from here and draw a parallel and recreate the tradition. Right? That's what they're doing. I had some discussion with some people who are doing that in the West, in Europe, and they're basically looking up to the Vedic tradition and the Agama, the Tantric tradition, in order to get some elements that can incorporate into the resurgence of the native things. So as you said, it is everywhere, but it's alive in its original form only here. So if you want to benefit, this university, the Vedic university, has the knowledge. And please come and take it. Nobody is stopping. But if you simply want to feed your ego and curiosity and try to be desperately inclusive, you can go around everywhere and keep searching and you will not find it. And finally, you will end up coming here. So somewhere one has to stop, take the knowledge where it is available, benefit from it. And once you have attained the higher consciousness, once you have realized your integration with the spiritual reality that is inside and out around us, then with this enlightenment, you may try to see how you can revive and sustain whatever is left there, and see probably how you can access the elements there, and we will be in a better position to distinguish the authentic from the not so very authentic ones. So the right learning. What is the right learning? From this framework, anything that has not any place of learning, any body of knowledge that has not lost its connection with the Veda is right learning. Whatever has lost its connection with the Veda and the Vedic tradition and trying to establish itself and tries to criticize the Vedic, criticize in the sense, criticize is a positive word, I mean, tries to dismiss the validity of the Veda in order to establish itself. Any body of knowledge, any school of spiritual learning, or any guru or a institution or a tradition that dismisses the Veda, that depends for its survival, it depends upon dismissing the Veda and the Vedic tradition and tries to establish itself in its place, that would be the wrong place of learning. That would be the wrong learning, wrong place and the wrong body of knowledge. Whatever is trying to be in tune with the Vedic tradition, I'm giving an extremely broad criteria here, extremely broad, super broad spectrum criteria I'm giving here. The traditional people won't, the strictly traditional people won't accept this. But I'm trying to give a very broad categorization and criteria here so that it can be taken and everybody can benefit from it, right? So with this, this is giving a huge possibility of inclusiveness. As long as a place of learning, a body of literature, a tradition or a lineage or a guru or an ashram or a person is not, a person who is so-called guiding, is not out of tune with the Veda, is not against the Veda, at least that much, and has some kind of a unbroken connection with the Vedic tradition, a lineage of teaching, a teaching lineage, a lineage of learning that does not have, and the practices, knowledge and ritual, knowledge and the practices in some kind of unbroken lineage connected to the rishis and to the Veda. If it is there, that has the potential to be the, I will even say this, it has a potential to be the right place of learning, provided they respect the universal dharma that is to be followed by any place of learning and any ashram. Right? So this is the broad criteria. Using this, please use your common sense and analyze for yourself. So somewhere we have to stop and start learning. So you don't have to compare and try to see which is better, which is better, which is better. Among the options that are available for me as an individual, I must choose whatever is the most authentically connected with the Vedic tradition. From there, I can choose my ritual. And the knowledge and the school of interpretation must have an unbroken connection with the original teacher who established, and must incorporate the scriptures and the books and the body of knowledge that has been handed over traditionally and try to align itself with that. Make an effort for it at least. So if I check these factors, whichever follows that to the maximum is the right place of learning. And the right path is whichever helps me to get out of my personal drama, reduce my personal drama, and increase the proportion of the divine delight alive. That would be the right path. And the right company is whichever helps me in this right path. Whatever does not help me in the right path is wrong company. That's about it. So with this, I think I answered, and my God, it's such an exhaustive question. It took the entire whole class. Okay. So from this question, I can probably move to the concept of adoration, invocation and adoration. So in the Vedic tradition, we have 3 levels of spiritual integration. I'm introducing the new term. Spiritual integration is what? Integrating my personal reality as much as possible with the universal rhythm of life, the divine reality. Personal reality, divine reality. Okay. Jiva Srishti, Ishvara Srishti. So, in this process, when I am talking about invocation, invocation is a very broad word I have used here. Invocation is anything, could be of anything. Invoking the divine need not be only in a ritualistic altar, an altar of worship like Ganesha, my puja room with Ganesha, Lord Shiva, Vishnu, etc. It need not be only that. Any universal value or principle, any fundamental universal value or principle is a manifestation of Ishvara. Whenever you respect an universal truth, whenever you are in touch with an universal truth, you are in touch with Ishvara. You are invoking Ishvara. Somebody is telling you a lie. Okay? You have a feeling that this person is telling a lie. Then you say, hey, don't lie to me. Tell me the truth. Why? There is an intrinsic value for truth. When you say, tell me the truth, you are invoking Ishvara. You are trying to make the conversation more in tune with Ishvara Srishti. What is whatever is there in the transactional reality, that is a common transactional reality, that is Ishvara Srishti, what we call as a Vyavaharika Satya, no? So, or a Vyavaharika Nitya, however, depending on your purpose of discussion. The transactional world that we are in, right? See, I am looking at, if you are in a room right now, there are some things around you. Let us say in another corner of the room, there is another person, or in another part of the house. You both see the object in front of you. Let's say there is a table in front of you. Both of you see the table, of course, from different angles, but both of you know this is the table. You see that? The bookshelf. Both of you look at a bookshelf. Now you go to sleep, that person goes to sleep. In your sleep, you are in a garden. In the other person's sleep, that person is in the middle of a concrete jungle in Manhattan, New York. Right? Hold on, I'll be back. Okay. So both of them, you and the other person, are experiencing completely different worlds in the dream. Right? So both of you wake up. The table is still there. That person is telling a different dream, different story. You are telling a different dream, different story. That person meets you in a coffee shop in New York. You said you took a walk with that person in the rose garden. Now you both can fight over it. Hey, I am telling you, you are in New York. But then you are telling him, no, you are with me in the rose garden. How can you be in New York? Now you may be laughing, but this is the nature of Jiva Srishti. I have my perception, you have your perception, and both are wrong. But then what is the reality? Both of them decided to discuss this over coffee. And then they come and sit at the table with each one with a cup of coffee to think about it. Now both of them agree that there is this table. Hey, this table was here before we went to sleep. The table is here after we wake up from sleep. So which is real? The dream is more real, or this table and this coffee is real? So then you understand the difference between the dream state and the waking state, right? Now the table survives the dream. The table was there before the dream. The table and the dress which each of them were wearing before going to the nap. The same dress is there when they wake up from the nap. Then they see the consistency here. So Ishvara Srishti is consistent. And my individual world, the Jiva Srishti, is inconsistent. And whatever elements I have in my mind, I have taken it only from my experience with the Ishvara Srishti. I may see a rabbit with a horn in my dream. But I have seen a rabbit in the real world. I have seen a horn in a cow in the real world. So my mind put the horn and the rabbit together in my mind, in my dream. So I see a rabbit with a horn, but the rabbit belongs to Ishvara, the horn belongs to Ishvara. Putting the rabbit and the horn together is in my head. That is my Srishti. Understand? So we may have disagreements between my Jiva Srishti and your Jiva Srishti, but when we come and make an effort together, Samvada it is called, when we both accept the indisputable validity of the transactional reality above our personal reality, we are invoking Ishvara. We are invoking the divine. We are both agreeing with the divine, basically, because it is the divine laws of physics and everything that sustains this visible world that is in front of us. It is the divine intelligence that sustains this whole universe, right? So every time I am tuning myself to a transactional common sense reality, I am tuning myself to Ishvara. So it is not just in the puja or in the rituals. Every time you are trying to make an effort to be realistic, you are invoking Ishvara. Every time you speak the truth, you are invoking Ishvara. Every time you tell a lie, because you are out of tune with Ishvara, you are feeling that cognitive dissonance inside you. You are not feeling comfortable with the lie. Every time you go out of tune with the Ishvara Srishti, you will feel less comfortable within yourself. You can notice that. No? Just you have to do an honest introspection and see. Instead of simply arguing, we have to just see. I may have an opinion and you may have an opinion, but and both of our opinions can be made false, proven wrong by the reality that is in front of us. And when we both are confronted with the reality, we have no choice but to agree with the reality. We may decide to hold on to our opinion simply for the sake of the ego, and whoever does that is going to struggle more inside and is going to struggle more with life, and time will prove it right. Right? Finally, the reality will have the last laugh, the last laugh. So every time I am invoking the need for truth, every time I am invoking the need for non-violence, every time I am invoking the need for love, every time I am invoking the value of charity, every time I am invoking the value of prosperity, there is nothing wrong in being easy. Prosperity is the goddess Lakshmi. No, see, we see every aspect of life, we have a god. Right? Money, we have Lakshmi. Killing and war for the righteous cause, we have Kali, we have Durga, we have Bhairava. Right? So, the gift of life and creativity and knowledge, we have Saraswati. For the gift of life, we have Skanda. And sustaining life and protection, we have Lord Vishnu. So we have a divine for everything. And there is an association. So basically, this is nothing but, we say, 33 types of devatas. 33 koti devas. Koti means the 33 types. So the 33 types of divine beings encompass this, govern this entire universe, right? So everything in our everyday reality is connected to an intelligence that governs that, and that intelligence that governs that aspect of life is the governing deity of that. So we have a personification for that, and we have a way of adoring that. So whenever you invoke dharma, you are invoking Lord Rama. Rama, Vigrahaman, Dharma, whether you know it or not. Whoever is the devotee of dharma, of righteousness, is a devotee of Rama. He may not worship in the form of Rama. If he worships dharma, he is a devotee of Rama. Right? Similarly, when you worship Rama, your mind gets automatically in tune with dharma. True devotee of Rama will never go into adharma. He will not be comfortable with adharma. Because the energy of Rama, there is even an anecdote in Ramayana where whenever Ravana tried to dress himself as Rama to cheat Sita, see, simply because of dressing myself as Rama, I am not able to have adharmic thoughts at all about Sita or about anything. So I am going to approach Sita as Ravana myself, not as Lord Rama, because if I dress myself as Rama, I cannot do the adharma. It becomes impossible. Because Ravana was a great psychic being, he had a huge psychic potential. He was a great yogi, tapasvi, even though he was an asura. He had a very evolved mind. Yeah. So, adoration. So, whenever you value, the invocation is tuning ourselves to a universal principle, and adoration of the universal principle is appreciating its value and its validity over and above your personal opinions, over and above your personal drama, over and above your personal projections and likes and dislikes. The reality, it is like telling, us sitting at this table and discussing our dreams according to common sense, appreciating the waking state is more important than whether my dream is right or your dream is right. So the waking state is more important than the dream. Similarly, in the same way, a universal value is more important than my personal likes and dislikes and preferences. It is more important than my ego. It is more important than my drama. It is more important than my story. When I have this attitude, when I develop this attitude, it is adoration of the divine. Then I dedicate my entire personal world in the service of that value. That is dedication. That becomes karma yoga. So it need not be only in a ritualistic altar. Worship at a ritualistic worship at an altar where the divine is invoked according to the Shastra in a divine form is fantastic. If you cannot do that, if you are not able to tune to that, like I'm not able to, it doesn't enter my head, I have to push myself too much and all that, doesn't matter. Every time you invoke a universal value of life that appeals to you, that is close to your heart, you just understand that you are invoking the divine supreme in the form of the divine law. Every time you place it above yourself, every time you value it and appreciate its relevance, it is adoration. And every time you place it more at a level of more importance than your personal projections and likes and dislikes, then that is dedication, right? So such a life will help us, when we can try to incorporate this principle in every sphere of life, putting reality above my personal drama. And that would be a way of living as a devotee of Ishvara and tuning our individual life with the universal rhythm of divine life, right? So on this note, I will finish the class, and let me just have a, yes, this is a thank you. Okay, good. So we will complete the class with our Purnamada Shanti Mantra chanting. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaja Purnameva Vatishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sate. Thank you.
Henry, thank you.